three sites, and I've called them alternatives 5, 6, and 7. I'm going to start with alternative 5. Alternative 5 is located on the State Rail Authority property. It's right down the road here on the confluence of Oldfield Fork and Big Spring Fork at the head of the L. Alternative 6 is located on Big Spring Fork development property, which is basically snowshoe property they bought.
Excuse me, is that called Split Rock? Is that called Split Rock?
That's what I think locally it's been called that.
Okay, I just want to make
Okay.
sure.
It's about 2 miles south of Linwood, 2.4, 3 miles north of here. Okay? And the alternative 7 site is located on the road going up to Snowshoe Resort. I located, there's a wooden pole sign, tower sign there. And that is that, it's in that field right there with that sign. That is the third site, and that's Snowshoe property.
That's on the right side of the road?
Yeah, be on the right-hand side of the road as you climb the hill. Okay, let's go through each site. This is the alternative 5 site confluence. What I've shown, and I hope you can see this area right in here in the middle would be the treatment facility. The gray area, the solid gray area, would be parking or drive area around that facility. And there's a black line here, which is basically the property line for the rail authority property. The dashed line is the flood mapping from the FEMA, the flood insurance rate maps, which has been overlaid on that drawing. This particular site was looked at earlier, but it was never detailed investigated. It had been looked at, but it has never been looked at in depth with drilling and flood studies and the various things that need to be done. I also took photographs of each of the areas. So this is a photograph from the road looking back in towards the site. It's very hard to see, but there's a pink stake here and another stake over here. We actually staked the corners of the buildings on the properties. So in order for them to go in and do the geotechnical investigation, they asked that it be done that way. Go ahead and turn. Again, this is another photograph of that particular site. Alternate site 6. Again, the area in here in the middle would actually be the treatment facility. The gray solid area is the parking and drive aisles in. The dashed line here is the property line. And this area is the flood mapping from the FEMA maps.
And could you comment where the effluent was discharged for each site?
I will here in a minute.
Okay.
You hang with me a second. We'll get there. Again, we have.
Can you make a comment on that flood mapping in terms of what is that flood mapping based on?
The flood mapping is based on the flood insurance rate maps issued by the federal government. And what we do, laid out the base map, which is SID map, and then we overlay those on. The accuracy of them is questionable. That is one of the reasons why we hired Marshall Miller to do the flood analysis on those maps, using actual contouring to determine what it is.
Excuse me just a minute.
Yes, sir.
Do you realize that alternate site number 6 was underwater about 3 months ago? 2 months ago?
Absolutely. I realized the lower side of this site was underwater.
Well, it washed right across the whole thing.
I have pictures of it. I understand
right here.
exactly. I got them in my briefcase, my friend.
I believe he's actually ordered a stream flow study, not just for this
No, I'm
site.
talking about real life.
Please.
I'm talking about real life.
May I finish, please?
I started, you piped in. You're a developer. I'm not a developer. So don't give me any bullshit.
The facility here is really on the upper end of this property. We took photographs.
It's near the house there then.
Yes, sir. You see, go to the next picture. Oh, it's so hard to see. Right in here is the closest stake. It's actually back up in here, around the house.
where you're looking right there is where the water came across
And
right
yeah,
there.
the water, actually, we actually took pictures of where the debris line was, where it come across the property.
Right, but I did raise a point about this. When that water comes across the road, how do you get people in there to maintain under an emergency situation?
You have that issue all the way down through.
Depends on where you hire your people from, right?
I can't hear the question, and I can barely hear the answer. Could you repeat the question that's being asked to you so we could hear it?
He's asking about the flood that happened a few weeks ago.
When we close, 219 gets closed down periodically because of flooding. We know that. So what happens if you build a sewage treatment plant there, and you have flooding, and you need to get people in there to take care of it during an emergency situation? What do you do? There was an MV and a fire truck stalled right below there, just south of there. So what do you do?
Yeah, excuse me, if we could continue with Ken's presentation, and again, let me state, the impetus for the gathering here, this forum, is for these comments. We do want them, and we want to hear
I
them.
apologize, but when he shows a picture, it comes to my mind, and I want to comment on it.
Well, to your question, when I saw that, I addressed Ken and said we have an issue there, and he's called for a stream flow study for the site down here because some of it's in the 100-year, not flood zone, but floodway zone, and he's done the same for that site.
Okay.
For that.
Fine. Fair enough.
But we'd like to go forward, finish with Ken, and then we want to hear everyone's comments tonight, so we're going to try to get to that right away and move forward. Thanks, Ken.
The question Mr. Phillips asked on the discharge point, okay? For all these alternatives, until I am instructed differently from DEP, the discharge point is still at the confluence of the Oldfield, Big Spring Fork, okay? That's not saying the DEP is not taking a look at that, because I've talked to them and I know they are looking at potentially trying to figure out something else. But for right now,